Hello, Star Wars fans. Hey, there's just 149 days until Christmas 2022. Oh my goodness. It's Friday, and I'm super excited to be able to spend some time with my friend Meg. How you doing today, my friend?
I'm in mourning.
In mourning, I see that. You've got a little. The tears are shed. The flowers are laid. It's a sad day.
It
Yeah.
is. Jedi Master Yaddle's been laid to rest.
Oh my goodness. We did put it in the title for the show. Warning: there's spoilers. So if you didn't know, it's got to be on you. I mean, only so many things I could do to warn you that we'll be talking about spoilers. That's going to be the case today. And I saw that Levi Bond put in there. He put really disappointed in the leaks. They retconned like half the canon for Attack of the Clones.
I actually
And
agree with him on that. That's very true.
y-
I have a lot of
yeah,
questions.
well, you're right. There are a lot of questions, and I struggle with it as well because I've really enjoyed getting into reading a lot of the books, and I've never been able to keep up with the comics, but I've read a number of those as well, and it's challenging when things don't seem to line up, and they start but specifically that Ahsoka novel has kind of been eaten away at here and there, and as I mentioned yesterday, I don't think that the Ahsoka novels like entirely retconned over what we'll talk about, but it's it does get challenging, and unless somebody can remember more specifically than I can, and so just to set it up for folks who may or may not be aware, the retcon we're speaking of with Ahsoka specifically is that they show her um, in the upcoming Tales of the Jedi series. They show her at Padme's funeral, Attack of the Clones. Well, first of all, we didn't see her in the funeral, right? At the end of Revenge of the Sith, right? Revenge of the Sith. We didn't see her in that funeral.
I was looking for
And
her.
you went back and looked.
I went back and looked for her. She's not in that spot. But you've got to bear in mind, and I think it's Bespin Bulletin who said this, even though Ahsoka, the leaker, is getting things right with his leaks, and obviously he's got footage, stills, all of that, some details could be wrong.
Right.
I think it was Sheev who said, and I gave him a bit of grief for this, but he said, we don't actually know if Dooku kills Yaddle because we don't see the lightsaber hitting her. Someone could have saved her at the last minute. And while I think that's kind of cope, um,
It might be. Yeah.
he might be onto
But
something.
it could also be a bit of you know how a lot of times advertisements, commercials for things aren't necessarily true to the content of the thing. And so it could be a splicing made for a commercial, the upcoming trailer, something like that, where it appears that he's going to be killing Yaddle, but he's actually, slicing a loaf of bread. Who knows?
Who knows? Or maybe Grogu force chokes him from Yaddle's womb.
Oh my goodness! And yeah, Nikki's a little salty as well. Um, so the scene shows. So we
I don't
talked.
know, I haven't tasted her.
We, uh, I almost responded to that, Meg. So we're kind of flitting about on topics, but it all is around this Tales of the Jedi. That there's a few things in there that are spoilery. Though and the first one we mentioned with Ahsoka being at Padme's funeral, in the Ahsoka novel, they don't mention her being there. We see her at the end of uh, uh, the Clone Wars, Episode 7, right? At the very end, she goes off and she goes into hiding. In the Ahsoka novel, it picks up where she buries the one lightsaber and all of that to pretend like she's dead, and on it goes. Well, there's no mention of her going back to
Naboo.
Naboo or Padme's funeral, but there's no mention she didn't either. But what it kind of leads you to in the novel is that she has to go into deep hiding because of Order 66, and if she knows Vader's on her trail, she knows the clone troopers are on her trail, and she has to go into hiding, and she does so for like 10 years. So, so could she have snuck to Naboo and attended the funeral in secret and not been seen by anybody? Well, I reckon she could. But then
Do you know what
gotta
question pops in my mind?
yeah.
Is was she in touch with Sabe? Because Sabe, post Padme's death, was very interested in finding out what happened to Padme. And,
Mm-hmm.
the biggest revelation she comes to in the comics is when she says, it's really interesting, Darth Vader, you showed up the minute Anakin died.
Hmm.
And I think, that's kind of where the comics are leading to. And I suppose, was Ahsoka part of that early story? And why wasn't Ahsoka more curious to know how Padme did die? Did she believe the story of, I guess, that was going round in her family?
Well, they cover some of her in the Queen's books as well. Uh, Similarly, not as much detail as you have in the comics, but Sabe and kind of picking up after Padme's death. So that's a good question. That's a really good question. Um, and it just like you said, where from these leaks, I have questions, and we have these snippets, much like you would get from a trailer, right? And they show us, they reveal quite a bit, but they don't answer. We don't have the full context. We don't have the outcome or how it all plays out, right? So the other part that we were also talking about is with Yaddle, R.I.P. Yaddle. Of course, we all know Star Wars Meg's affinity for Yaddle. Uh, One of your favorite, if not favorite, Jedi council members, right?
Indeed.
So with Legends, there was another outcome for her, and you had come up with a nice theory about Yaddle leaving after the Phantom Menace to be with Grogu, right? They're her and Yoda's love child,
My
something to that
theory
effect.
was that Yaddle left because of Grogu, because obviously Grogu may have been too attached to her if they're related, and so it was kind of it's Yaddle or Grogu who stays, and Yaddle kind of gave up her position so that Grogu can be trained properly without that attachment. And that theory would have panned out, but I think it's very unlikely at this stage.
Yeah,
I hope at the very
right.
least Tales of the Jedi gives us some kind of allusion to the fact that Grogu's around.
Um, I don't know. I agree with you. I would love to see that, and we kind of talked about it yesterday a little bit too. Like, will we see some Grogu in the Bad Batch season 2? Could we see a little bit of his backstory in Tales of the Jedi? Might they kind of give us a little seasoning here and there of Grogu? Um, that would be wonderful. But Jason kind of warned he's not sure that they're ready to put Grogu into animation or tell his story in animation, rather reserving that for the Mandalorian and the Mando era, the Filoni verse. I don't know. Like in back, in flashbacks and things like that. Um, my own opinion on it is that one doesn't preclude the other. For example, we know that the Rebels scene with Ahsoka and Vader is being brought to live action in the Ahsoka series. So I have no problem with kind of showing it in more than one instance.
Yeah.
I think about storytelling, and this is where I have to go with it with Lucasfilm, is storytelling told from multiple perspectives, right? So if and it's, they've done studies on it, they've done all kinds of studies and research where if a room full of people observe the same event, each of them will tell slightly different details on that same event, especially when it has to do with some sort of dramatic or traumatizing event. So the classic one is like a classroom full of students at university, and somebody runs in, does something really bizarre, and then runs back out. And then afterwards, they'll interview the students, and they'll ask about the person that ran in, what they did, and their, things about their attributes, like was it male, was it female, were they Caucasian, black, Hispanic, Asian.
But I think
And
having a different planet is a bit more extreme. I think the word you're looking for is gaslighting.
you can say that. I'm trying to be a little more forgiving and say that perhaps if you had the story told of Grogu, for example, in the Bad Batch, it might have slightly different details than Grogu told from the Tales of the Jedi, which also might have slightly different details than Grogu's flashback memories told in the Mandoverse. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe.
Right? You got different perspectives of the same events.
I don't know. I don't know if I'm as willing to put my lips around Pablo Hidalgo.
Oh my goodness. I just try to make it work. I try to make it work. And the Ahsoka novel is one example of that. You read some of the events there with the Clone Wars overlap, where you get the same sort of scene told in the Clone Wars as you do in the novel, and they're different. Oh, here we go, Nikki. Sorry. I will get the Hoth ambiance playing in the background. Right. There you go. So it's just that I think, like, there were differences about white sabers or blue sabers, and you go back to the Bad Batch with Caleb, right? Caleb Dune, and what happened during Order 66. Some slight differences in what we heard or saw in the comics versus what we saw in the Bad Batch. And if it's just from different people's perspective retelling the same story, as long as it's the same story, some of the details might vary a little bit. Back to that classroom example, right? Like some people will come up with different details, or remember that the person came in was a different ethnicity even. So.
I mean, that's kind of like saying the duel with Mace Windu and Palpatine was just seen from Anakin's perspective, but the reality of the situation is it was Kit Fisto who was yeeted out the window.
Well, not necessarily.
Just from my perspective.
It could have been his hand was cut off or his arm was cut off. You know, how much of his appendage was severed? I
didn't know his appendix was severed.
I didn't say appendix. Oh my goodness! So that's all. I'm
just pulling your balls, pulling your drink, whatever the right expression is.
yanking your chain. How about that?
Yes.
But as you put on there in the chat before it started, this is a Filoni led project, and I did see that we had Levi was saying in the chat, like, we have to just trust that Dave understands. He's understudied with George. He understands the importance of staying true to the story, and that he will make sure everything's okay.
I'm sorry, I just saw Matt Risman's comment, and it's just dawned on me that Tales of the Jedi is Lucasfilm's way of just making sure every prequel Jedi is dead.
Oh, well, I mean, could be.
So that they just want fans to shut up about Mace Windu Book of Boba Fett theories.
Well, speaking of Mace Windu, and we hear that in part of his story as well, and talk about the Tales of the Jedi leaks, that Mace gets his he is made a Jedi Knight before, or what's the detail there? He's promoted ahead of Dooku.
Mace gets the rank of Master before Dooku. Dooku gets mad.
Right, and
there's a Will Smith slap on Mace Windu.
Oh, right. So we do get a little Mace Windu and Count Dooku context. And Dooku, his story is, when outside of Attack of the Clones, is quite compelling. The story that's been built, the backstory and the character arc of Dooku is really quite good. And adding to that story is something I'm interested in. So Tales of the Jedi has my interest. It's not all just like worry about them retconning or messing up things. I'm also excited. I'm excited to see more of Dooku's story when he was maybe at his prime.
Wait, I have a question. So, presumably, Yaddle was good friends with Mace Windu. Presumably, they're on the same council.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of a known fact that, Yaddle goes to Geonosis. She doesn't come back. They assume she was killed. They probably work out that it was Dooku. So what sort of trance was Mace Windu under in episode 2 that he looks Padme dead in the face and says, "Oh, don't worry, Dooku is not a murderer."
Right. Hey, I'm with you. I'm with you. And the more of the story they start to tell, the harder it is to forgive some of the Jedi Council members for being so blind to Palpatine. Right? It's inexcusable. We've both said that Yoda's a lying liar. That's what he is. He knew better. Yoda had the information, yet he just hand waves it away. Oh, it's nothing. And as you said, Mace at the beginning says, "Oh no, Count Dooku, he's a morally upstanding, right and true kind of dude. He would never do that kind of bad stuff."
Yeah.
And I agree.
It also makes Yoda's duel with Dooku in episode 2 more interesting, because Dooku would have then fought both Yaddle and Yoda within a few years.
Yeah, and both of them having that same sort of stature, right? Like it adds a level of difficulty fighting a very competent saber wielder who is that small. It's sort of like in American baseball having a shorter strike zone, right? Somebody smaller has a diminished strike zone, because you've got Yoda and Yaddle who, from a combat perspective, present you a whole different series of challenges. So very true.
Well, Santa, I've heard it's not about the size of the strike zone, but rather how you use it.
Exactly. 100%.
You know what's funny is before we started the stream, Santa went to get a drink or something, and he's wearing these pants that say "juicy" on the back.
No, they don't.
He probably changed them, but he did.
No, Meg.
Or was it slippery when wet? It was one of those two.
No. Oh my goodness. Before we move on, Tales of the Jedi. Anything else, or what's your overall kind of outlook for Tales of the Jedi?
Did the leaker say that Cal Kestis is in it? I remember seeing Cal Kestis being mentioned.
Let me bring this. I can share. I've got some information here, and let me bring this up so folks can kind of read some of these. All right, so it says Dooku and Palpatine are talking on Geonosis when Yaddle slams the door open, ignites her saber, and stares him down. Right, catches him in the act, so to speak. And so she asks Dooku why he betrays the order, and he replies with the typical "I see through the Jedi's hypocrisy." Typical Dooku there. Right.
I think Shiva's right. I'm confusing Cal with Caleb Doom.
Okay. Yeah, Caleb. Yeah. And then this scene during the end of the second Ahsoka episode, Anakin's training Ahsoka. The point of the scene is to show Anakin teaching her moves earlier in the episode saved her in the future. 3 minutes long at the max. All the new scenes, season 7 is still canon, though it's just an extended version. And then it goes on to say more details for the Qui-Gon episode in Tales of the Jedi. The Jedi agree to rescue the Senator's child, but only agree because the Senator is a little corrupt. So they want to get a better understanding of him. Sort of like placing Anakin so closely to Palpatine and saying, "Hey, tell us the secrets," right?
Yeah.
The Senator comes out and has a fight with Dooku. Dooku force chokes him, not beheaded. Qui-Gon then tries to stop Dooku, but Dooku force pushes him away. Eventually, the Senator's child comes out and stops Dooku as part of the fall to the dark side. So that's just some of the leaks that I pulled out there.
One character who I think needs to play a pretty big role is Chancellor Valorum.
Oh, Chancellor Valorum. He should. And I mean, from what we're hearing, I don't know.
And he's still alive in the Andor series. So
yeah. So would you say you're cautiously optimistic? You're excited. You're hyped. You're pessimistic on Tales of the Jedi. What's
I'm
your
very
overall
optimistic. I think it was Star Wars Only who saw the first episode, and he was saying it's like the best Star Wars animation we've ever had. Better than Bad Batch, better than Clone Wars Season 7. And story-wise, okay, fine, I'm upset about Yaddle, but if they can tie up some loose ends and not mess too much with canon, I know that's like overused as a phrase, because, you know, it's interpretive at this point. I'm all for it. I think it can be a really good series.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm trying to be optimistic about it, and other than the bit about Ahsoka perhaps breaking canon from the Ahsoka novel, I just hate to see that novel get whittled away. And what they're doing, yeah, Nikki, what they're doing with the books and the comics is concerning. And I would love to hear somebody come back and say what the position of or relationship of these different media are to each other. Again, when Disney bought Lucasfilm and made the EU Legends, just to clarify, like, this is not canon. You know, George Lucas never considered it canon anyway, so it's not like they decanonized anything. They just really clearly put a label on it. But they made a statement saying, okay, going forward, we want to make all this stuff tie together. But now it's kind of there are little breaks in the glass, right? Like it worries me. And if they're going to say that, kind of go back to the old George Lucas kind of tiers of canon concept, then tell us, let us know. That way we know what to expect when we're reading the novels or the comics. Like, might these inform something? Are they just fun stories to read? So there we go. Tales of the Jedi. There's another. We can go ahead and cover the Acolyte if you like, and then we'll talk about Andor and some other stuff. For the Acolyte, we have a bit of a
We
synopsis.
have some breaking news.
Yeah.
We got some breaking Andor news. So Diego
okay.
Luna is going to be on Good Morning America on August 1st, which can only mean that is when we're going to get the full trailer.
Oh, that you're absolutely right. So let's.
Sorry to interrupt you, by the way.
No, that's great. So, but we can kind of tie this together. We'll talk about Andor and then go back to the Acolyte. So we've been speculating when would we get the full trailer, the next trailer. If Diego Luna is going to be on Good Morning America, then that is, I think, you accurately say that is definitely an indicator that it's likely. There's a chance, I would say a small chance, that they won't release anything else. But to me, that's the beginning of the push, and they'll have a brand new trailer. That'd be great.
I think they need to. I think a lot of fans are, kind of not caring about Andor as much as other shows. I get the feeling in the fandom that, because Celebration had so many other things to it, the Andor teaser, which was shown at the start, has kind of been forgotten about almost. And I think they need that final trailer to really give fans a reason to watch. Not the diehard fans like you and me and our audiences, but just general Star Wars fans in the zeitgeist who may not even be aware of the Andor series because Kenobi was such a big thing. So I do think that's going to be a huge moment for Andor. I think people are going to start caring. And obviously when it drops, we've got a 2-episode premiere. And if those 2 episodes deliver, then I can see Andor being a real success.
I think so. Well, and I was just looking for it. So Jedi Mike asked, Good Morning America or Jimmy Kimmel?
Good Morning America.
I would guess he will also do the rounds. So he'll be on Good Morning America, and then he'll probably go down the street and do a recording for Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon. Keep going, right? Like, this is just kind of announcing the beginning of the press run, where the press junkets as the actors are involved. But I think you're accurate in saying too. I think if they can kind of get in front of it, like, this is the guy, the writer did the Bourne movies. This is going to be a bit of a spy thriller series. That will get people more interested than talking about some of the more Star Wars inside baseball stuff, right? So if you're going to be talking about, this is going to be Cassian Andor doing this or that, people aren't going to care as much. Like, just the general public, the general audience. They're like, isn't he that dude that dies? And doesn't everybody die in Rogue One? I mean, who cares? But if they can hype up the other side of it, like, this is going to be a mystery thriller from the writers of Jason Bourne.
You know what I think is so brilliant about Diego Luna, Sonna Vollenberg, what's her name, Genevieve O'Reilly, all these people, is from what I've heard about the show and the things I know, they've been so good at kind of making it seem like this show is just a Rebel Empire prequel to Rogue One, but it's so much more. They're doing things with this show you wouldn't believe. And I'm not just saying that, like, there's substance to this show that you're going to watch it, and it's kind of like Book of Boba Fett chapter 5 and 6, where you kind of question why it's even, part of this kind of show. Like, where was this in the Kenobi series? So I've got a lot of high hopes that once Andor starts, fans are going to get really excited.
I think so too. And hey, I see Mike Porter is in the chat. And yesterday, right when I went to do the Mike Porter dad joke, Melon locked up on me and I couldn't do the Mike Porter dad joke. So I have yesterday's Mike Porter dad joke to do. We'll do that now. And then I've got today's, we'll do at the end. So just so we catch up, because both of them are Star Wars related. What do you call a Jedi that's hunting for the coolest Sith? What do you call it when a Jedi's hunting for the coolest Sith? Mall shopping. Oh, that's a good one. I liked it. Good job, Mike Porter. Yeah, I think as far as it goes with Andor, here's our friend Jason Ward, Making Star Wars. You can go to makingstarwars.net. He published this article just 2 days ago, Wednesday, and how the Death Star connects to Star Wars Andor. You covered this already in your videos, but we can bring this up as we're talking about how Andor is going to be different than I think a lot of people are anticipating. So here we have how the Death Star plays into Andor, and as Jason shared, we've got these workers. And you see these workers like in this hallway scene. So we've seen this in the trailer where you've got the folks walking through this corridor, and they appear to be barefooted. If you look really close, you can see where their foot color matches their face color. So they're not wearing shoes. There's variation here. So you can see they're barefooted. And to Jason's point, when they're working here in this place, they're standing in a little bit of water, and if somebody messes up, they put a little jolt of electricity through the water to correct everybody. So your buddy down the line messes up, you're standing in the water, you get zapped when they get zapped. Good fun. Good. But this is some sort of industry taking prisoners and having them work for the Death Star project. And Jason and you both pointed out how this dude here, working on the end of the line here, seems to have an object that very much looks like a lightsaber.
It looks like Yaddle's lightsaber.
You think so?
It looks like hers.
Did he put a close up? So here you can see the feet color difference between people. Here it is. This very much looks like a lightsaber to me. This is the hilt. This is the emitter. Yeah, and we know that with the Death Star, kyber crystals were involved, and they might be mining the kyber crystals out of lightsabers that were obtained after Order 66.
Jedi Mike is right. I think there's a real life parallel that they're trying to kind of get at.
Could be the case. I think there's going to be another really strong connection to the war in Ukraine. And I think that's going to be very pertinent. And we're going to have refugees who are fleeing from their homes, and it parallels with what's going on in Ukraine. So I think that's going to be true. Could this also be a bit of a jab at the prison industrial complex? Could be, but in any event, for Star Wars fans, you might have lightsaber being mined for kyber crystals for the project. So
I think with all of the talk of this being such a political show, it always kind of interests me the fact that Tony Gilroy never came across as a political guy. Like, he doesn't seem to be very expressive with his views on things. So it's interesting that he's helming what's going to be the most political of all the Star Wars shows.
Yeah, it's going to be very political. But if you look at spy thriller, go to the Jason Bourne movies. They're very political. You've got um, you know what's it, nation states and spy kind of things going on, and this is characterized as a spy thriller in the same sort of vein. Put it within the Star Wars universe. I think it's fantastic. And what are they going to do to infiltrate into this complex? How are they going to infiltrate into it? I should show it when I say this complex, right? This complex. You can see all these connecting tubes are all filled with prisoners going working on the Death Star project. How are you going to get people in there, and how are you going to get people um,
Save 29% on Bose Quiet Comfort earbuds.
you can get them for $200 instead it's $280. How about that? Uh, but I think it's going to be exciting. It should be a very exciting show, and Andor is just just a month away. We are right at the cusp of Andor,
Yeah.
and and as you mentioned, we're going to start the press junket on the first. We see where Diego Luna is going to be on GMA, and then presumably Kimmel and the others. So it looks great. Looks great. Anything else on Andor before we switch back to the Acolyte?
I guess just the fact that I hope this series takes the opportunity to give some nuance to, I guess, political factions within Star Wars, and not just to kind of black and white the issue of Empire versus Rebellion. I know we're going to see some tension within Cassian himself, but I hope we also see that in some of the other characters to give us a better understanding of how this Imperial regime has affected people. We saw it a bit in the Bad Batch Season 1 with locals on, I can't remember the planet, but how they saw the Empire as this great opportunity and for financial support if they join the military and all of that kind of thing. I want to see more of like the everyday people and how they're affected by the Empire. That would give some really interesting world building, I suppose, to the political landscape at this time.
I'm trying to remember. There's in one of the novels, and this is a common theme. It makes its way across several of the books. I see Levi Bonds in the chat. He may give us the source where, or maybe it was in the comics. Let me just say what it was, and then you can tell me where it came from. Where they're, I know it did. Couldn't get my brain to stop working on it. It came in Dr. Aphra novels or comics, Dr. Aphra comics, where the Empire was really being heavy-handed on things, and they had this one political figure come in and say, "No, what you want to do is teach them that with the Empire you can have peace and food and resources, but without the Empire, it's going to be starvation, bad, and terrible." And you see that in the Bad Batch as well. You see it in some of the novels, and there was a specific political type person in the Dr. Aphra comics who introduced that concept, and they could very well be playing that out in Andor as well. But yeah, the propaganda ministry. Yes, that was it. That's it, Levi. Volume 6 of the first Dr. Aphra run. Yeah, the propaganda ministry. That's exactly where I remember it from. Um,
I
and
was also
and
going
we
to
do.
say Rebels.
Yep,
If you watch
yep,
the episode Empire Day,
yep, yep. We could see that in Andor as well, where they're trying to tell the people like, you fall in line, it'll all be good. You'll have food, you'll have money, everything will be good. Peace, right? Which is sort of what Anakin was pushing at in the prequels, right? Like, no, we can have peace, and if you don't want a peaceful, we'll force you to be peaceful by killing you, right? Dead people don't fight. Yeah, we could get a lot of that in the Andor. That would be excellent, and I think it falls in line with the true heart of what George Lucas was teaching or kind of messaging in the original trilogy. Even is of those who come in with empirical kind of empire like. He was picking on Nixon specifically, but other governments had come in and formed empires, be it the British Empire or American imperialism, or Soviet or Nazi. Right? He was kind of picking at that, regardless of who was being imperialistic. He was making the point. And what we have now, as I mentioned before, with Russia and Ukraine, falls in line with that. And this can be right at the heart of Star Wars. Can be right at the heart of George Lucas's kind of messaging that he had all the way back in the original trilogy. Which raises a question again. Remember the rumors that said George Lucas was actually working on the Andor?
I think that was because someone misread the IMDb page where it said based on characters created by George Lucas, and everyone's like, oh, George Lucas is working on Andor. He's not.
Right, exactly. So it's worth bringing that up. And Levi, remember, yeah, Minister Vore. That's who it was. Minister
I mean,
Vore.
think about it. Of all the projects George Lucas would come back on, he wouldn't just direct an episode of Andor.
Yeah. No, he's not gone.
I would love to be wrong. I would love to be wrong.
And I think Dave Filoni has been consulting with George since he left. I don't know that George and Dave ever kind of lost touch with each other, and that Dave is highly influenced by George's mentorship, and it continues to this day. So whatever involvement Dave Filoni has, I think there's some connection back to George, whether that's the Bad Batch or the Tales of the Jedi or Ahsoka, whatever that might be. Yeah, Levi, it was Josh, Den of Nerds. He kept kind of leaning into that. And it was, I think, I agree with Meg. It's a total IMDb nothing burger, right? I agree with that. So let's talk a little bit about the Acolyte. We've got some exciting news about the Acolyte as well. You want to give us the TLDR?
Yes, the same person, the same leaker called Ahsoka, who's been providing the leaks for Tales of the Jedi, also had some plot details and character details for the Acolyte. And you know what's been really interesting, because a lot of the channels that make a lot of noise have been moaning about Obi-Wan being bisexual. Thankfully, they've not actually been targeting Amanda Stenberg. And I hope that stays that way, that they leave her alone.
Well, you brought it up, and I want to just throw this in there. I've thought a lot about it, and I've talked about it. I talked about it yesterday on my show, as well as with Jason Ward on Making Star Wars show. I'm going to say something pretty provocative, but it's how I really feel on it, and I've had time to think about it and really contemplate it. But I'm going to put this out. If you hear somebody saying that Padawan makes Obi-Wan Kenobi bisexual, they are making him bisexual. Padawan did not.
I'm amazed that that's a provocative statement, because I actually agree with you.
The people who are saying that Padawan makes Obi-Wan bisexual, the people saying that are making him bisexual. If your narrative is that book makes him bisexual, you are the person making him bisexual. The book does not. That's it.
And I will add to that by saying if you read that and that's your interpretation, I think that's a great thing because I'm completely happy with Obi-Wan being bi or whatever. Some people said he's pan, or I haven't read the book. Then that's great. If that interpretation of the character means something important to you, I think that's a great thing. But the people complaining about it have kind of stretched the truth, because I read the paragraph, I think today for the first time, after seeing all of this outrage from people. And as you say, it's literally like a passing thought in his head of like just questioning his feelings. It's more, a subtext on Jedi attachments than it is on Obi-Wan being bisexual or pan.
Yeah, or any, whatever his sexual identity is, it isn't defined in Padawan. That's
Yeah.
I'm being a little more stringent on that than I typically am. I try to be a little more back off, but I just felt like that needed said.
I guess it's just a shame people are making it like a negative. Because even if Padawan came out and said he was bisexual, I don't think that's very surprising. I've always seen Obi-Wan as I guess bisexual in my head.
Bedlam Inn cracks me up here. This is hilarious. It doesn't matter what it says in there. It'll be contradicted in Tales of the Jedi anyway, according to the leaker.
Is that true or a joke?
No, it's a joke.
I can't tell because it wouldn't surprise me either way. If they're retconning Ahsoka and
Right. This is the perfect kind of sense of humor I love. Fantastic, Bedlam Inn. That's perfect. Well done. No, and we discussed this yesterday. You and I did that. It goes back to even Luke Skywalker, and Mark Hamill has said as much that it could be either way, right? Who's to say
he
that
said
he
it's true. He said he's not
Yeah.
joking.
No, he said straight up in his interview with Vanity. No,
Sorry,
Variety.
I'm talking about the commenter who said retcons Tales of the Jedi. He's actually being
No.
serious.
Yeah, and then he said, haha, no. He's no,
Sorry,
it's
yes.
good.
But Mark Hamill did say if you interpret Luke as gay, then he's gay.
That he's gay. And so for a lot of people, that's been the case. Oh, okay. No, I see what they're talking about. They're talking about the Dooku thing. They're not. I was talking about the Obi-Wan being bisexual. The Dooku status. Okay, so we have to wait until we exactly see where the Dooku storyline fits in the canon, or like in the story arc, like, because Dooku Jedi Lost covers a lot of ground, and it kind of puts some benchmarks in there for us. So when you look at Tales of the Jedi and you look at Dooku's story arc, you compare it to what we already know from Dooku Jedi Lost, from the Clone Wars and from Attack of the Clones. Will it contradict? How much will it contradict? And I tend to, again, kind of hold off complete judgment on it until I've seen it and see if it how it plays out. I did the same thing when I read Padawan. I waited till I read it. And I'm doing the same thing with the Ahsoka leaks and the Dooku leaks. I'll wait to see how much it retcons or doesn't, or if it actually fits within the narrative between spaces.
Yeah, I think there's something to be said of just waiting to see till it comes out. But here's my hot take. I personally am not too bothered if they retcon a book or an obscure comic, even if it was canon. I think the problem comes when you retcon the films, and I think Ahsoka being on Naboo and messing with Dooku in Episode 2, those kind of rub me the wrong way more than, let's say, Yaddle dying. because I don't like things that make you go back and rewatch the films and see something different, or it ruins it. And I kind of feel the same way about Kenobi, because in many ways it explained a lot of things from A New Hope, but I feel as though that wasn't always a good thing because it made them concrete. There was always a nice mystery to the Star Wars universe when you could fill in your head what you think happened between certain time
Yeah.
periods.
Yeah, I blame George Lucas for a lot of that, though. Like, he did it with the original trilogy, made you go back and watch A New Hope, and it would be like, wait, I thought they said this. And then when you see, well, from a certain point of view, and you go back and you watch it, like, yeah, but that's a stretch, my friend. He did the same thing with the prequels, where it's like, a couple of the famous ones is Luke and Leia's discussion about her mom, and not the one that raised you, your real mom, and her memory. And then you watch, and you have to go back and then rewatch Return of the Jedi and say, wait, how does that fit with Revenge of the Sith? Yeah, it's frustrating, but at this point, it's part of Star Wars DNA. And not to say that I like it or that I'm excusing it. I agree with you. I don't like it, but it's something we have to live with. So Anthony asked a question. I had to go back and read some of it. It says, would Dave Filoni have been to, not TW, would have been to Lucasfilm what Kevin Feige was for Marvel, possibility replacement for Alan Horn before Chapek took over Disney and Iger was still in charge? No. Answer no. That's not Dave Filoni's. Especially at that point in his career, he wasn't prepared to be a Kevin Feige, and I think that even today, I'm not sure I would say that he is a Kevin Feige type figurehead for Lucasfilm. What do you say, Meg?
I'd agree with that. I don't think the comparison is completely right.
Yeah.
Great to see you, Joe. Diamond Joe.
Yes, Diamond Joe. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. Diamond Joe just got a prize from Santa. I mailed it. I saw he got it. He sent me some pictures of the open packaging. So thank you for your support. Thank you so much for your support. Yeah, he doesn't have full creative control. He isn't the president, all of that. But what else? I saw another question come by.
You know what's funny though with Dave Filoni's promotion from like last year or the year before? I do think he has more creative control than people think. Because when it came out that he was like responsible for how characters looked in the Kenobi series, even though he had no involvement as a producer, it really goes to show how much creative freedom he does have. And in some ways that could make the Ahsoka series awesome because, he can have free reign over his characters. But at the same time, I've seen some people make the argument that he does need to be controlled to some extent because he can go overboard.
Right. I saw somebody post on Twitter, and I can't remember who did, says, we could be fans of Dave Filoni and also critical with some of his missteps, right? We don't have to put him on such a pedestal that we have to say everything he does is pure and correct. We can say, look, the guy's learning, he's getting better, and he has his own little foibles that he falls on, and his connection to Ahsoka might be too strong. And we could say all those things, and also say Dave Filoni is a bright beacon of light for Lucasfilm and the future of Star Wars.
And I've seen some people say his head got too big after Star Wars Rebels, that he's kind of high on his own farts, so to speak.
Did you say thoughts? I think you said
no,
thoughts.
I said farts.
He's high on his own. No, you said thoughts.
Okay.
I heard you. I heard you.
I'm sure Ahsoka will be
Oh my
great.
goodness. I'm sure it will be great as well. So with the Acolyte, um, uh, you had mentioned before Amandla, and we did get confirmation that she's going to be in there.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
So just to
I
answer
heard her,
Sheev,
Dawn. I heard,
just to answer Sheev, people give Filoni all the credit for Mando, but it's not just Filoni, it's Favreau. Obviously, the directing team for seasons 1 and 2 were amazing with Rick Famuyiwa, Carl Weathers. So what I'm saying is, when Dave Filoni's working in a team with really talented people like himself, he does really well. But the argument that some fans make is, and I do see their point to some extent, is when it's just him, he can bend a lot of things about Star Wars and try and be too creative that sometimes it's a bit too much,
yep,
like space
yep.
whales.
It's- yeah, yeah. Levi cracks me up too because this would be a point of outrage for me when he does retcon Thrawn, in, especially in how he is so protective of Ahsoka's character since he created her. She's sort of his baby, and he watches over her story very very closely, and how Timothy Zahn is the creator of Thrawn, and if he if Filoni can't respect Zahn, then isn't that a little hypocritical? So that's
I think Filoni's respected Zahn tremendously in Rebels. I hope they do the same in Ahsoka, but I think we've spoken about this before. There's no enormous difference between Zahn's Thrawn and Rebels Thrawn. I guess
I
just the,
agree.
the, the roles they play in each show. And they have to make Thrawn accessible to fans who are going to look at the screen in Ahsoka and say, who's this blue guy?
Right, right, right. So the Acolyte. We have a little synopsis of the show. You were going to give us a little a TLDR on that, and then we went sideways.
Yes, so Amanda Stenberg is playing Aura, and she's got a younger sister. They live on a planet called San Shiro, which sounds way too similar to AC Milan's stadium, the San Siro. Sorry, it just
Okay.
came to mind when I played too much FIFA. I lost my train of
Which,
thought.
by
Oh
the
yeah,
way, you told me this Sunday you're going to be attending a football soccer match, a very
yes.
good one. Yeah, she's good. Meg said she would wave at me from the stadium. I'll be watching. I'll say, "Oh, hi, Meg." No. Oh.
You'll have to identify out of the thousands of waving people which one's me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just know. Oh, she. Yeah.
Fun fact though, here is a very fun fact. If you watch on YouTube the highlights of Germany France, which was the other day in Milton Keynes, I went to that game and
Oh,
you
okay.
actually can see me.
Oh, really?
If you pause the YouTube highlights clip at the right moment, you actually see me. I'm wearing a face mask. Not fashion wise, COVID and all of that.
Okay. So if we put that together with you playing the guitar, we'd have both the top of your face and neck down.
I bet Ronnie would create some kind of compilation.
Yeah, Dawn says, what you need is one of those you see at sporting events now. They've got these giant heads, like on a stick that they hold, right? And they like a coach or a player or whatever. And
Santa
just
knows
get
a lot
one,
about head.
just just get a giant, Santa, uh, hold that up, and then we'll know where to look. Well, oh, there's Meg. Right.
Baymax says, why isn't your avatar humping Yaddle's grave? Baymax, I am many things, but I am not a frog fiddler. Or necro frogler.
Necro. Yeah. I was going to bring that up later, but yeah, your new animated GIF on your videos entertains me tremendously. Yeah, I like to in my head canon say you're just riding a bantha. I'll just leave it that way. Other people see different things. I just
The Book of Boba Fett really messed me up because, when you have to phonetically spell things over the phone, every time I have to say the letter L, I think L, as in like a bantha. I think we lost Santa.
yeah I what L the letter L. You think like a bantha. Every time you see L, you think like a bantha.
Yeah, unlike you
Okay.
always think lesbian crust. And for those who don't get the joke, the other day Santa said,
Crush, but it came off. It didn't come out right.
and then Darth Elvis showed us his cheeks and said, sorry if there's some
Yes,
lesbian crust
he
on it.
did. We had a live cheek reveal. So is Meg's avatar crying? Yes, she's grieving.
I'm leaking.
Yeah. Uh, Anthony, I see your question. We'll come back to it in a bit. There's still a couple other things to cover. The Acolyte. We've gone off path a couple of times. Can we actually make it through? What do you
One
say?
quick going off path. Could you
Okay,
highlight Vader's Lair's comment? Because I don't think you realised how wrong it sounded when you typed it.
this one.
Yeah.
He likes. No, I now when I went to say it out loud, I heard it and I stopped. when I heard it out loud, right before it came out of my mouth, I was like, "Oh, what? No, I." That's it.
I can't be the only
So
one that thinks it's suspicious Santa hasn't stood up since I made the comment that he's wearing shorts that say juicy.
no, because you already covered your lie with another lie. So now I can't win either way. So doesn't mean it good. Um, the Acolyte. Not only is Amandla in it, but we heard a little bit about her character. There's a story synopsis there where there's the Jedi are doing Jedi type things, and I heard Thor Skywalker kind of groaning about it again because there's been this kind of theme being kicked around for a while now, where the Jedi were really the problem. We kind of mentioned it before, where the Jedi Council had all the evidence of Palpatine right there, and they couldn't see it, and they had gotten so strict on their rules and on being aligned with the Senate that they couldn't see what was right in front of their face. And then the whole attachment thing that's been bantered around, but now there's this other bit where they come in and they want to take one of the children but not the other. Sounds very much like the video game setup that we saw some time ago, but they want to take one of the children but not the other, and it kind of sets them in a bad light. And then along come the Sith, and they come up with a competition of sorts, right?
Yes. The Hunger Games.
Yes, yes. The Hunger Games is very accurate way to put it. The last person surviving gets to become a Sith. Everybody else is dead, right? So that's sort of the synopsis of the story. Anything else on the Acolyte Leaks?
Yeah, there's a Sith Lord called Paul.
That's the code name.
I just thought it was funny because someone commented on my video when I talked about that they think it's Darth Tenebrous. I don't know if I replied to them, but I was thinking, now that I think of it, Darth Tenebrous does have like a Paul vibe to him.
Darth Tenebrous, Paul
Yeah, he
vibe.
seems like a Paul.
Okay, I mean, he does wear shades.
Don't know, he just seems like a Paul, you know? You know when
Okay,
people look like their name?
yeah, yeah, right. I'm reminded of there's a cartoon where the one like space creature, isn't his name Paul? I can't remember. Anyhow,
It's
anyhow,
like
what part?
when your parents saw you, when you popped out, and they said, "This is a Santa."
I said he looks just like his great grandfather. We'll name him Brian. Yeah, no. So will Penn be a young Mun? Um,
I read that very wrong.
hey, you see, Max showed up. Hello, Max.
Hey,
Hello, my friend.
Max.
Good to see you.
Max is great.
Uh, I love her, and I mostly love her male cat that dominates the house and it is very strongly opinionated. Mohawk. When Mohawk comes in, he's disrupting Jason's show because he's got things to say. Mohawk's got an attitude, and then Max gets thrown off her game because she's trying to referee.
So what you're saying is Max has a noisy pussy.
she, well, she, and I saw a picture of Max. Max is a very handsome a young man. Yeah, I absolutely love Mohawk. I've got a little like obsession with him, so I can't help it. It's just so anyhow, there's also some speculation, and I did see that Baymax put it in. Will Penn be a young Mun, which leads to the typical Darth Plagueis speculation.
Isn't that what Josh said on Den of Nerds?
Likely. I don't think I caught it, but
I think I caught something like that.
anytime a new figure is introduced in Star Wars at all, regardless of situation, circumstance, storyline, plot, anything else, the speculation is always,
It's Darth
well,
Plagueis.
that's going to be Darth Plagueis.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
Snoke's Darth Plagueis, Palpatine is Darth Plagueis.
exactly. Snoke is Plagueis, Palpatine's Plagueis. Pretty sure that that there's a rumor out there that even Jar Jar Binks was Darth Plagueis. I don't know. It make me crazy. But in this case, it actually could be. If it is a young Mun, and it could be Plagueis. I could just say
When
it.
Santa says it, he sounds like a Jamaican person saying a young man. He's a young
There we
man.
go, Levi. Max is Plagueis. I'm pretty sure the Mohawk is Plagueis. To tell you the truth, I think.
I think you're right, Sheev.
I see. You guys are great. I love you all.
We haven't seen any Muns since, what's his name, San Hill.
Right. I mean, and we haven't seen them at all, and so I would love. I'm all for, as much as I give a hard time about, yeah, a hard time about the novel and Plagueis and people speculating Plagueis. I'm all in favor of seeing him. I'm all in favor of seeing his story told. It's so sure, let's do it. But what else? What else am I forgetting about Acolyte?
Um, we could see Yaddle.
We could see Yaddle. We could. absolutely. Before she's dead. That's
We're gonna have to see Yoda. I mean, I feel like if we're gonna see any Jedi, it's got to be Yoda.
Matt. The Plagueis novel still Santa's absolute favorite bait and switch novel. He didn't have enough characters left. It's my favorite bait and switch novel. That's
And Disney are gonna retcon the novel for it to say that Palpatine sensed one day he'd have a granddaughter.
Vader's lair. Good job, Sheev. Misquoting Meg. We could Seattle. Seattle.
We could Seattle.
Yeah. Good job, Sheev. Good job. You guys got me derailed. What else? Wait, there's a couple other stories. The from the gaming side of things, and I have this up. We already shared our friend Jason Ward's Making Star Wars story, but Bespin Bulletin has a few stories here, and you covered this a bit as well. Not only the first story here, Jedi Survivor is listed for a March release date, and you in your video today gave another Jedi Survivor tidbit.
I did.
Oh, what was it that you added today?
I added that Cameron Monaghan gave an interview where he's like, we could see Cal Kestis in various mediums. So kind of hinting maybe he's in talks to be in some kind of upcoming show. I mean, I've been giving this a lot of thought, and I know this is like a side thought, not really necessarily linked. But a lot of the Mandalorian wild leaks have been saying season 3 ends with a major cameo. And I wonder if Cal Kestis could fit that description.
Cal Kestis is another character that we've heard a lot of speculation about bringing into other shows, especially Bad Batch season 1. We were right there, right? He could have shown up. Bad Batch season 2, we could get Cal Kestis. I would love to see them bring him in. Moynihan is a good actor. He voices and his likeness is in the game. So bringing him into live action or animated, have him do the voiceover for animated and live action could work out terrifically. Absolutely, that'd be great.
I agree with Diamond Joe. It's probably going to be Snoke.
In the back to tank there.
You know what's really funny is that Santa is a big sequels fan, but I think I've been pushing the Snoke in Mando season 3 theory way more than he's ever talked about Snoke.
You have, and I think when I look at this back to tank, to me that looks more like Lauk than it does anybody else. I think just looking at the fitness of the body and the hair, it reminds me of Lauk from the Timothy Zahn Thrawn novels, Heir to the Empire.
That'd be so cool.
So
to canonize that. And Sheev, that is not my dark side name. That sounds like a disease. It sounds like Darth Meningitis.
I would love it if that could be Lauk, and that would be a neat way to bring in some of the. There's been a lot of speculation about bringing in the Zahn trilogy. So sure.
What do you think of the Havoc Marauder in season 3 rumor?
Oh, yes. Let's a little bit on the gaming. We'll come back to the Havoc Marauder here in just one moment. The other gaming news was the KOTOR remake is dead. Two of the key people on that are gone. That's going to take some time to replace them, so don't expect that. We've already talked about Lie of the Jedi. We've already talked about Acolyte. So, as Bespin likes to point out, I just glaze over his articles. But but please, folks, Bespin Bulletin is a terrific source, very reliable source. Between Bespin Bulletin and MakingStarWars.net, those should be your go-to websites. Absolutely.
100%.
So yeah, the Havoc Marauder. What do I think about that in season 3 of The Mandalorian? So just for folks who haven't heard, are unfamiliar with the leak, the rumor, that Din Djarin is going to come by an abandoned Havoc Marauder, and that he will adopt that as his new ship. I love the thought. But the Bad Batch would be dead, except for Omega. She could definitely be alive. And it could be a way to bring Omega into the live action as well. Mando needs a new ship. The Marauder's out there. He finds it. He adopts it. He takes it on. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I love all of it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I was a much bigger fan of his previous ship.
Oh yeah, the Razor Crest.
The
I
Razor
love
Crest.
The Razor Crest.
I
Yeah.
much prefer it to the N1 Naboo Starfighter. I think the N1 was really cool to look at for, Book of Boba. But I think now that kind of wow factor's out the way, it'd be much better for him to have like a home to kind of fly around in.
Yes, and the Havoc Marauder. Look, they can do another repaint. Hasbro loves doing repaints. We could rename it. Mando gets a chance to name it. Anything's possible. Anything's possible. And it's a great ship. They've already got Legos of it. And in fact, Levi's got, I think, Levi, is that the new Lego ship you just got for your 21st? By the way, Levi Bond just turned 21 years old, and he got drunk for the very first time in his life. And yet
he's so young.
He was a champ yesterday. He made it through the show with a hangover, and you wouldn't even know. They did a great job. And happy 21st, Levi. But yeah, was that the Havoc Marauder back there that he got for his birthday? Go ahead.
I want to ask you, Santa, what do you think about this theory? Just an idea I had. Imagine in season 3, Mando comes across the abandoned Havoc Marauder, and just as the leaker said, you do actually see Omega's room, and it's not really changed much. And then he goes throughout the whole season with it, and then right at the end, you see the silhouette of a figure who says, "That's my ship." And then it cuts to black and says, directed by whoever, Peyton Reed probably.
Yes, please. From your lips to God's ears to Filoni's ears, make it happen. Absolutely. I definitely she may not be in Mando season 3, but set up for Mando season 4. Perfect.
I like that idea, because then you have a lot more time to develop her in the Bad Batch.
Exactly. And you've got a great introduction. Not only have you set up Boba as her brother, and now the Havoc Marauder, where her family, right, the Bad Batch lived and what they used to get around, brings her into the show perfectly. You've got also the tie-in with Fennec Shand. Perfect. I love it.
Oh, I forgot about Fennec. There's so many tie-ins.
So many. I need it. And the other thing that I've brought up, and this is complete speculation on my part as well, is for Hasbro to give the Black Series Fennec Shand helmet. That needs to happen. That's an easy one. There's not much involved with it, and I'm sure it would sell quite well. That helmet, alongside with Boba Fett's and Darth Vader's and TIE Fighter pilot helmets. Fennec Shan's helmet is iconic, and it needs to be available for collectors. Big time.
I agree.
Big time.
Absolutely. And people really care about her and all of the Mandalorian characters. Merch for
Yeah.
Mando, Book of Boba, it's all selling.
Well, and Ming-Na Wen has ingratiated herself with the fandom. She is a fan. She's one of us. She's a wonderful human being. She's beautiful. She's everything you could want for a Star Wars character. And as Jason points out, the weakest part is that her story hasn't been fully developed, and they haven't really utilized her character to the potential that she has, which is great. It's all upside potential. Do it.
Do it.
Do it. Vader's Lair. I'll 3D print Fennec's helmet for you. That would be great, Sheev. That would be great. That needs to be there. Anything else? Anything else for today's show?
Covers most of it.
I think so too. We do have a Mike Porter dad joke while we think about it and we let the chat. I also saw Anthony had another question for us, so we can go back to that. What do you call the area with excited Star Wars fans? Hyperspace. Oh, that's another good one. I like that one, Mike. You got nothing for Meg. But anyway, I like it.
It was good. It was good. I smiled.
It's good. So Anthony asked another question, and he's kind of getting more into the side of things that I tend to stay out of. I try to stick with the actual content of Star Wars more than talk about people bickering with each other and that kind of stuff. Let me see if I can get all the way back there. Here's one. Can you explain why it seemed like Reva became a jobber in Obi-Wan when she had more of a serious role in the comics?
I don't think Reva was in the comics.
I don't think she was in the comics either. I was like, wait, Reva, I mean, they will eventually do they'll do a graphic novel like they are now with The Mandalorian, right? And I think I saw you or somebody was reviewing the graphic novel The Mandalorian and how it really it's not just a retelling, but it adds a lot of
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I really recommend it to anyone who's interested in The Mandalorian and you kind of want to catch up again if you haven't seen season 1 in a while. The graphic adaptation really gives you like a different vibe. It's almost darker. Like it's so strange, but it feels more intense than rewatching the show. Because if you've seen the show, the impact isn't always the same the second time round. So if you want that kind of novel feeling again, seriously go and read the adaptation.
Excellent. I saw your review and the art looks really good. So it's
Impressively
worth it for the
good.
artwork as well. Yeah. So this was Anthony's other question. Why is it fans of Marvel and Star Wars complain Marvel has huge plot holes and they look at Star Wars, they don't see the plot holes? I think that's a fundamentally incorrect observation, Anthony.
I think Star Wars fans are more, nitpicky about, well, not nitpicky, but I think Star Wars fans are more aware of plot holes and seeing flaws in Star Wars than for Marvel.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. The only issue that Marvel has that Star Wars doesn't is that Marvel's doing more adaptations of existing stories. And when they do the adaptation, they change things. And that gets them a lot of criticism. And they did that with Miss Marvel and got people in arms about changing some of her character attributes for live action or for the Disney Plus adaptations. So, but But as far as plot holes are concerned, I think Star Wars fans are hypercritical and perhaps way more so than Marvel fans. That's just my take on that. Let's see. What? Matt, they're going to be selling the prep sink from Kenobi's sand whale job as the next big collectible. That'll be the next. Oh, that's good. Levi, not sure the Acolyte ever really got covered. We did. We talked about the plot line for it and how there's a bit of a Hunger Games kind of scenario going on there, right?
There wasn't much substance in the Acolytes compared to Tales of the Jedi, so it may have seemed like we kind of skimmed over it, but I think literally the leak is only like a paragraph at most.
Yeah, it's pretty short. Pretty short. Vader's Lair. They are making a Reva comic. Yeah, Levi was funny yesterday. He kind of took a stab at Hasbro because we were talking about doing Finnick's helmet, and they need to release that in black series. He says, although that's way too much work for them to actually tool that helmet. It's got an actual moving part on it. You know how the face shield drops down and up. Way too much work. You know, a hinge. So anyway, that was just kind of trolling them, trolling Hasbro because that's how bad they are. So there's that. All right, I think that's it. I think we've covered it. I think we've done all the things, Meg.
We did all the things.
All the things. And
Santa's going to go back to being juicy.
Right.
Or blubberlicious. I can't remember what it said.
It didn't say. Look. This is it. I've got these sweatpants on. That's it. It doesn't say anything on the back.
I don't think you turned around all the way.
I'm not going to.
The font is very small.
It's not. You're killing me. Meg, I love you so much. Thank you for spending time with me today. I hope. Who are you rooting for Sunday?
England.
Yeah, we have to ask. I figure it's England versus Germany, right?
Germany, yes.
Yeah. I just, gotta ask. Maybe you're a closet Germany fan. I don't know.
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
Well, not unfortunately not, just not.
Just not. Just not. Okay. Well, thank you so much, my friend. Have a wonderful weekend. And,
thank you, Santa. Thank you for having me. And thanks to everyone who was here.
All right. And with that, folks, we're going to sign out. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful